Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love Fruit podcast. And today, my guest is AJ Dybka, who's going to be telling us a little bit more about his uh, his whole raw food journey and his journey to better health. So, AJ, let's start by if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, an introduction.
Yeah, just a short intro would be 28 years old. I grew up in New Jersey, and I actually grew up in the same and ran the same state cross-country course as Mike Arnstein. I have been never really interested in good nutrition until I became more of an athlete, and that's how I think a lot of this began.
So, you were an athlete when you were younger, mostly running, is that right?
Yeah, when I was in high school.
So, but when did that journey towards the raw vegan kind of thing, where did that all start? Was it bad health? Was it wanting to be fitter?
Yeah, so I don't want to like dwell on the past, but I'm just going to like give like a brief like I'm not going to go so far into the past, but I want to bring a brief just understanding. Like I grew up on restaurant food completely. I had the biggest appetite of any kid or adult you'd ever meet. I would eat a box of cereal for breakfast. I would have lunch at school, and then I would come home. I would have a meal, and then I would have dinner at my grandmom's. And then my mom would work in a restaurant. She would come home and bring pizza and cheesesteaks, and then I would, make 7 egg omelets at night and make peanut butter and jelly. And just like I was eating probably, even as a kid, 4,000 plus calories.
Why? Did you think there was any reason for that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think that probably like a lot of absorption issues, or a lot of like just not getting the nutrition that my body wanted at that time, because clearly I was getting tons of calories, but I was still super skinny. I wasn't malnourished then. Like I didn't look like, depleted, but I just always had a desire. Like I never felt like I met that set. Kind of like I'm sure you're familiar with when you eat like a good quality amount of fruit, you're actually like, okay, I don't have a desire for food, because I could stuff myself to my belly's bulging, but I still want it more.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have to move, but we can keep talking.
Yeah, sure. So I met you at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. What led you to there, and how did you kind of start making changes to your diet? Did you go vegan first, or what happened?
Yeah, so I ate that way, the way I just described, probably until I was about 15 or 16. And then I started doing cross country. And my dad, he was always into like fish and vegetables. And my mom's side was never into health. But I was like, all right, I want to get fitter. I want to like take this up to the next level type of thing. So I started doing a lot of things my dad was saying, like, drinking green tea for the antioxidants, and eating oatmeal and blueberries, and just making smaller changes. But, 90% of the diet was still shit. Sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to curse. It was mostly still crap. And when, so in high school, yeah, I was still eating French fries and pizza and all that stuff, and I could handle it. But what happened, everything changed in 2010. It was my senior year, and I was going on Christmas break. Now, up until then, I always had amazing digestion, and I had like an iron stomach. Like I could put anything in there, break it down, and it would come out in full, or at least what felt like full. So, but the one thing I always had was anxiety. And then what happened was we went on a Christmas vacation in 2010, and I went home I was home for those 10 days, and the entire 10 days I was constipated. And I looking back, I feel like it's because I wasn't in that state of anxiety to help things kind of move along. You know what I mean? I think I was dependent upon that in a way.
Wow.
And then when I was removed from that, it was kind of revealing of like, I needed that stimulation or something to be able to go. And then because that happened, I was so much in fear that going back to school, even, I'm like, is it gonna, is it gonna help? Is it gonna be enough? Blah blah blah. So it put that fear in the back of my head and just kind of like took over from there. It was a lot of like constipation from there on out, actually, for the next 6 months. I mean, it was better when I went back to school, like things actually started working again, but it wasn't the same. And now I had this like big stressor in my mind.
Do you think that digestion is very connected with emotions then?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard a guy the other day, he described it as like you're either in fight or flight or rest and digest. That was like the phraseology he used. So people that get into like, they're always triggered in fight or flight. Well, it's funny because you're kind of saying that your digestion stopped when you weren't anxious, and then when you were anxious, it would start to work.
Well, think about it like this: like something happens, like an emergency, you go like, for, I don't know, for people that are really terrified of something, it's like they could crap their pants, or they could, I have to go to the bathroom. So it's like it was enough to stimulate the having to go. I mean, it could have been it threw me out of the routine and whatever as well. I'm not saying it's not that, but it felt like a huge difference. And I could build from there, or if you want to ask me specific things, I kind of have like a linear progression of destroying myself.
So you had this like constipation a lot, but when did you? What point did you kind of think maybe you had to change your diet, or did you start experimenting with that straight away, or like how did that work?
So I seen it more as a stress thing because the stress seemed so powerful then.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a house. I'm actually at the house now. I don't live here, but I'm at my grandmom's house because I wanted to sit outside and do this. And I was driving by, and we had 8 people living here, and we only had 1 bathroom, and it was just like an overall stressful environment because it's such a small space for so many people. So I just felt like the stress was a big avenue that needed to be addressed. And it's not that I didn't think could food be the difference. It's just like I honestly didn't know how. Whenever I would try to eat healthier foods, I would eat such a small amount. It's that whole thing where it's like you eat healthy, be careful, but then it's like I could eat 5 candy bars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so what was the first experiment you made food-wise?
Well, I actually moved to Tennessee after that. Nothing changed because I tried to be in a more like peaceful area, blah, blah, blah. And then came back, and it was pretty much just a year of decline, like a year of big stress. My joints started to hurt really bad. Actually, my joints hurt so bad, it was hard for me to hold a book. I had no energy. My thyroid was kind of low. They wanted to put me on Synthroid, and then I asked to do. I'm a big McDougal fan, so well, actually, that came later. So yeah, the thyroid thing came later. But I had no energy. I was always freezing cold all the time, and I didn't work. I was out of high school. I was 21. I felt so trapped that I just stayed pretty much in bed all the time. I was still eating like 5 peanut butter and jellies before I went to sleep, and then wondering why I couldn't sleep. I had bad insomnia. I was still running then. I could still. I'm kind of mixing timelines a little. At first, I was still running, and then it came to the point where I was bedridden. And it went like that actually for a while. And I actually thought my weight was still fine. I was still shredded. Like I was like 150, 6 foot, ripped as hell, despite eating fat, all fat and carbs and everything, just anything. And then I kind of like almost accepted death. Like I was just like, I'm going to die. And a crazy thing happened where my cousin, she was going to her friend's house, and she lived like in Pennsylvania, kind of like 2 hours away. And I was like, could I come? I wasn't working. I was like, I could really get out of this house and just enjoy, like pull myself. And I wrote this down because I read it recently. It was like, I kind of went there thinking, oh, I'll have some fun before I die. It's like, oh my God, it was dramatic. But when I went there, within the first hour, I had a bowel movement. And up until this, I was drinking milk and magnesia every day just to have some loose stool, probably for 2 months. It was that bad. And I was going to the doctor, and they were, they couldn't find anything. And so I went there, and I had like a semi bowel movement. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I was out sleeping by 9 p.m. I woke up, and that day I had 3 bowel movements. All of my joint pain was gone. I was running by the end of I was there for a week. I completely felt great again. And I was still eating Chinese food, pizza, caffeine, drinking tea. And then that really, that's why I guess I focused so much on the stress part, because I just literally went to this new environment and it's just a complete shift in everything that fast. When I thought, wow, I'm at death's door. And then it's like, I feel fine. And then I came back to the house, and within 45 minutes, tight again. I don't know if that's like the feeling is like constipation or like prostate swelling from stress or something, but just this tightness, all that came back. And I was like, I have to get out of here. And then I moved 3 days later, and it did make a big difference, probably like 60% better. But then I was still searching. I was still completely looking. And that's when I started listening to some of Rich Roll's podcast. And I tried vegan, I think a few months before that, and I failed because I was doing like cabbage and like beet smoothies and eating like a little bowl of brown rice.
Well, how did you find that? So let's go back to like, why did you try that? How did you find out about that? Like,
yeah. My best friend from high school, he listened to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan had Rich Roll on, and my friend was all into the Navitas superfoods. So we would always go to the place I get, Whole Foods or whatever, Wegmans, and he was buying those, and I was trying the smoothies too, and I'm trying to like finally address the food, and I thought Rich Roll was like a good example, because I'd look at Joe Rogan or these other people, and I was just like not about it, and I wanted that like vegan, plants lifestyle, but I lasted about a month on that, and when I was doing that, and then I pretty much just got like a chicken quesadilla because I was starving. I'm like, I feel better. And then I told myself, there's diabetes in my family. Maybe that's why. Blah, blah, blah.
How was your digestion when you first tried that vegan experiment?
I didn't notice any positive difference. I think because I was literally eating 3,000 or 4,000 calories. And when you switch up to that little amount, I feel like there's less to push through.
Yeah.
Or less for the body to function properly. And then you're not seeing it come out. Because when I would do that for a few days, and then I would do a bunch of food, I would be like, oh, digestion's better. But then 5 days after that, it's still shit because of the food.
Yeah. So you you didn't last the first time, and then
But I wanted to, yeah.
When was it you wanted to start again? Try again?
So after I moved out, I was listening to Rich Roll's podcast again. That was a few weeks after I listened to Chef AJ's interview. Do you know who she is?
Yes.
And she's talking about True North, and she was talking about water, and she really put water in my head. Like, water seems to be a very important key. I mean, obviously it's like an obvious thing, but I'm saying like as an integral part of like routine foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be drinking that, and I'd be like, my hands and feet I'd pay attention to all my body sensations. My hands and feet were just cold, but it wasn't like, it would help a lot in a moment. And then, but it's not the food. It's not the complete picture. So I'm like, all right, that's a piece of the puzzle. And then eventually I was listening to an interview with Rich Roll, Vinny Tortorich, and Ben Greenfield. And they mentioned something about like, there's that idiot who eats like 30 bananas a day. And him and his girlfriend, they're heading for heart disease. So that piqued my interest. I'm like, that does sound crazy. And then he had Mike Arnstein on his podcast, and I listened to it. I'm just like, this guy's got fucking health. This guy, he sounds like what I want. Like, he's an ultra runner, which I read Born to Run, and I was a runner. So I'm like, oh my God, it sounded so perfect for me. And then I immediately started eating fruit, and I was feeling amazing. I was doing, lots of high water content. I was feeling good, but then the end of the day came, and I'm like, Mom, bring me home chicken fingers and pizza and whatever, because I'm starving. So I was getting that hydration and that fruit nutrition, feeling good, but there's still that lacking part. Yeah. And I watched all of Mike Arnstein's videos, like every single one on YouTube, found everything. I listened to that interview a few times. And then I was at my cousin's house, and I was using my iPhone, and I'm like, I put in Fruitarian on YouTube, and then one of Harley's videos came up. And it's the video, I don't know if you've seen it, where he critiques the dietitian who is critiquing Lottie Jane, or whatever her name was.
Oh,
you know who
okay.
that is?
Yeah.
So in his video, that's to this day is still one of his best videos, in my opinion, because he has answers to all the questions instead of speculation. He's just like, you know, why do you think, your hands, why do you think you feel cold on caffeine? Like, one, it's a diuretic. Two, it's a restrictor, so you're getting less blood flow. And he goes into like B12. He goes into like, but he's making fun of the people that are like talking like, yeah, bananas are so bad for kids. And he made a lot of sense, in my opinion, because he was actually addressing the issues of like dehydration, teeth issues. And I'm just like, cool, this guy has answers. And then as soon as I started applying his principles, I felt everything that he said, and I felt a benefit from. And I was one of those people who's like so in tune with how he came off, because I'm like, I want to feel good. I want to eat enough. I don't want to be starving. I want to, I'm all down for vegan, but I wasn't vegan at that point yet. But I was just basically, that's how I got immersed. Like Harley was the big changer, as for many people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And was that at that point, was 30 Bananas, was the website still going? Did you meet people on that?
Yeah, I was. So that was 2013, and that was when he was transitioning, starting to eat like some of the cooked food again, like the pizzas. That was right around that time. So the website was still up. I used it a little bit, but I was more into the YouTube videos for sure.
Yeah.
I read 80-10-10 at that time and got into all that.
Right, so that's interesting.
Because I still had the fear of like sugar, giving me diabetes. I didn't know anything yet in terms of that stuff.
I thought you were going to say that the person you first came across was like Dan the Man, because it seems to me like you like him more or something when I followed you online.
Yeah, the journey continues. I mean.
Okay, so at that point, did you start to try 80-10 style raw diet, or
so
eating a lot of bananas and stuff?
So eventually, there was another Harley video I watched, and he was like, I was eating bananas sometimes, but I wasn't eating them right, really. It was more about like the apples, the oranges, the watermelon, all those. And then I would pretty much eat shit, non-vegan food at night or whatever.
Yeah.
But eventually it was, I watched a video and he was like showing the bananas, and he was showing how he ate up to like 70. And I'm like, cool, because bananas are affordable. It can make a smoothie. And I actually felt the best out of bananas than I did out of any of the other fruits. Like it wasn't even close. And I just felt like literally the day I had a banana smoothie, I went out back and played with my dog, and my cousin Sammy, she came out and she was kind of crying. She's like, I haven't seen you have any energy or do anything for years. So it was It wasn't just in my head. It was like, people are there to confirm.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, I actually feel good.
Yeah.
But then, so it was pretty much like banana smoothies all day. And then I would eat pizza or some kind of, vegan food. And then it came to the point where I was eating rice sometimes at night instead or whatever. And then Freely made a video called What's in Your Burger? And it showed the animal industry and stuff. And I just went vegan then. And I was like, okay, I've been practicing this lifestyle for like 6 months or a year, or 8 months, I mean. And I was like, I can do this and I'll figure it out, whatever. And that was February 8th, 2014. I went vegan, and it was pretty much raw till 4.
So, and at that point, sort of watching Harley's videos, that was your main source of like information?
Yeah, daddy. Well, it's not that it was my main, it was my gateway, because he introduced me to like Dr. McDougall, Neil Bernard, Doug Graham, all the people that I soon would go on to and read all their books and listen to all their interviews and all that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that I think he did introduce a lot of people to all of those people, and a lot of people don't give him credit for that. I think he was kind of he was doing the he was doing YouTube before a lot of people, you know, and
Yep.
yeah, it's funny because there is a lot of people that go on about. I remember he was saying that there were some people that were disagreeing with him, and they were saying, you know, oh, you should listen to Dr. McDougall and not doing right or whatever. And Harley was like, I told all you people about Dr. McDougall. You wouldn't have known who he was. Who it was. It's like,
Yeah,
which
pretty
isn't,
much.
which like for like the older community, obviously Dr. McDougall had books out in the 80s and stuff, but for people like in their 20s on YouTube, it was that like Harley was a big part of all that. I think that at that time though, even like he was starting to become way more of a drama channel, whereas before he'd been like he was really solid information, and if he did attack people, it was usually like a paleo diet person or something to try. Like
Right, right.
usually like the video you're talking about, where he was sharing quite a lot of knowledge as well. So
Objective information, like he would say. I really like that part of it.
yeah. That's what I found as well about him. Is I found other raw food people when I first went on was learning on YouTube, but he was the one person that was telling you exactly what to do. Like here's exact measurements and like exact specific,
Right.
even whether it was right or not, I don't know, but he had exact numbers and all that. So at that point, did you start meeting anyone in real life? Were you hanging out with other people in New Jersey? Did you go to any events or anything like that?
I mean, within the next day, my brother, my sister, they went vegan. My cousin, actually, my best friend Cody, he went vegan a month before and didn't even tell me. But me and him did this all together, like finding answers, looking for stuff. I showed him Mike Arnstein. Same thing with him. Like, so a lot of people around me were turning vegan, but I didn't really. No, I didn't go to. I was interested, actually, really interested, and I was going to go to the Woodstock Fruit Festival the following year, but that's when Harley divided himself and was going to do the Thai Fruit Fest, and I was going to go to that. I didn't end up going. I actually went to Europe, but that's probably what kept me from going. I would have went.
Yeah, so that would have been probably I think it was about 2014, just after the 2014 festival that all that fallout happened, and then in 2015.
That was after that. That was right after the 2013, yeah. Because the first year for the Thai Fruit Fest was 2014.
Right. Okay. So where did you go from there? Like you went from that point. Did you start to listen to other people? Okay, everyone, sorry for the little break there in the recording. So AJ, we got to the point where you're following Durian Rider, you're eating more fruit, you're eating kind of Roswell 4 style diet, and you wanted to go to Thai Fruit Fest, you didn't make it there. What happened from there?
So I had enough money for the plane ticket basically, but I didn't have enough to sustain myself in Thailand. So instead, what I ended up doing was visiting family that I haven't seen in probably 20 years. They lived in Sweden. And then I traveled through Sweden, through Denmark, Germany, and Poland. And my dad was in Poland, and I hadn't seen him for 10 years because he moved back there when the economy crashed back in 2008. So I kind of like surprised him. The thing that I wasn't ready for was I was vegan for about 9 months up to that point, or 10 months or something. And I felt amazing. Like it's the best, I felt so in control of, like Harley says, like your daily reality, and you know, you're not taking everything personally, and you're not freaking out all the time, and you can sleep good, and you have energy. Like all of that. Like, yes, that's why I was so like a crusader of the high carb we're all to afford type thing, because the results actually made me like change my life, and was like, of course, like I'll support these people. Of course, like I'll overlook, or I'll, you know, defend when there are people are saying, you know, they're doing something that's, you know, they're being assholes or whatever. And I really didn't see it more like a critique or something like that. But I felt amazing. And then when I went to Europe, I had all the knowledge in terms of like eating at least 3,000 calories, you know, no oil, low fat, get enough fruit, enough water, enough sleep. I actually think the sleep, water, sugar is one of the most simplified but best triangles or pillars of just human biology. It was amazing for me to, you could pinpoint like, all right, you didn't get enough sleep, you didn't get enough water or sugar or calories, whatever. It was such like an aha moment, because every single one of these things affected each other, and then every single one of these things affected you. So it's like, if you're dehydrated, you can't eat enough. If you didn't sleep well enough, you're not going to metabolize the sugars, and your digestion isn't going to be that good. Blah, blah, you know, they're all interconnected. So I thought like, wow, that is like such a good thing to focus on before you're thinking about putting your bare feet in the putting your bare feet in the, going barefoot and like getting sunlight and doing all these things that are good for you. But if you're overlooking the big three, as I saw it, you're not doing yourself any favors. Like, take care of those so that you can take care of the other things. So when I was in Europe, people didn't eat the way I ate in terms of volume or calories to begin with. Like, whether I was vegan or not, I always ate a lot. And when I went there, they were kind of having like a light meal and then like a dinner meal. And basically I was starving the whole time, despite like waking up 2 a.m., eating like a whole loaf of bread and putting vegan butter on it or whatever. I was doing whatever I can because I didn't want to get metabolic damage. So I was like terrified of that. But I was still under eating because they just didn't have that much food, and I wasn't confident enough to speak up and be like, I need more food. Like, I felt like I was a guest, so I felt like weird about it. So I was in Europe for about 3 months, and terrified I was getting metabolic damage. And I was able to come home, and I just started stuffing my face because I was like, I got to heal this metabolic damage. So I was like eating more than ever. Like, I went from like 2,000 calories to like 4,000 to 8,000 every day, 5,000 to 8,000 probably.
Wow.
And I got like, I didn't get so fat, but I got up to like 185, and my normal was always 150, like flat my whole entire adult life. And I never felt worse in my life ever. I don't know what was happening. When I look back on it, it was like a nightmare. Like, I was going to the hospital probably a few times a week. They were checking everything out. Everything was fine, but I was clearly like trembling. My heart rate was like consistently at like 110 beats a minute for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. I could not sleep. I was having like, not visions, how you put it. I felt like I was almost schizophrenic. Like, I was having thoughts that weren't my own. Like, things were coming into my head. I'm like, wait, why am I thinking of this? Like, I would never think of this in a normal day. And it's like, but the thought would carry on for like 4 minutes before I would even think that. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read. That's how bad my concentration was. I was in like literal hell. Like, it was the worst ever. That was probably about 4 months of dealing with that. But I wasn't just eating clean either. When I came back, I was like just trying to eat a lot, and whatever was there, I would eat French fries or whatever. And that actually led to the biggest problem of that, and what led to all the issues, a lot of the issues, was that I kept calling my cousin, because like I said, we were best friends, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, I feel this way, that way. And I'm like, I always have this burning hunger, nothing satisfied. I could go eat 10 potatoes, and 30 minutes later I'm starving. Wow. And he goes, what does it feel like? And I'm like, it's like a burning hunger. And he's like, sounds like acid reflux. And I'm like, I don't know, I never had acid reflux before. So he's like, go drink some orange juice. You got some orange juice? I was like, yeah. I go and drink it, and I go, oh God, like, it's like burning like crazy. And he's like, yeah, so basically I was reacting every time the acid reflux was coming up. I was eating to suppress that feeling, or just do something to change that feeling, I should say. And that's what I was constantly eating, all of that amount, because I was constantly reacting to that. So once I realized that, I'm like, okay, like I need to do something different and like change it up. So I pretty much just committed from there. I'm like, regardless of the reactions I'm going to have a liter of water, my banana smoothie, a liter of water, banana smoothie, and then white rice. And I did that for about 5 months. And things like after 5 months, my weight came down and everything kind of normalized. But I also wasn't drinking that much water, because when I would drink the water, it would make the burning worse before I realized it was the acid. So I was really dehydrated too.
But let me ask you something. So you talk about the weight coming down, and Harley and Freely, they believe that like for people to lose weight, they got to go on sugar and fruit and just high carb food, vegan food,
right?
And eat as much as you can, and then you'll kind of heal, metabolic damage and stuff, and then your weight will just come down after a while. Was that the experience for you think?
1 sec. Someone's trying to call me. So I think it was more in the fact of the consistency. Like I was eating around 3,000 calories daily, but it was very clean in terms of like it was organic bananas and organic white rice. I was drinking enough water, so probably 3 liters, and going to bed early. I think that translated from what I was doing to seeing a lot better results. I mean, my metabolism was already pretty good and pretty high, if that's like a real measurement to go by. Not entirely sure, but yeah, I think that it's not that amount, I guess, healed me. I was already at a surplus of weight and calories. So I think just coming down to a clean food that felt it took a long time for it to feel good, but I think that just coming to that point and being the consistency, I'm sure, which you realize is the big thing, like what your results are over months, not like a week or something.
Sure. So
I also didn't have sex drive being that big either, which is weird to think about.
When you were
I had no sex drive. Yeah, well, when I was going through all that, I just had no feeling down there. I mean, I was messed up, man. That was not fun.
Okay. So when did you get into like Lou Corona and all this stuff, and Dan the Man, or what like so basically did you go back to Raw after that at some point, or
no? So that's like 2015. Eventually, just staying on Raw 204, eating fruit, pretty much bananas. I was big on bananas. Doing the water, doing the bananas. I was able to move out on my own. I moved to Morristown, New Jersey, which is one of the best places to live in the United States. Had my own apartment. Literally everything shifted. I went from like hell on earth to like, I told myself in a few months, everything could be different. You don't know. I had my, health back. I had I had an apartment. I had a job. I was making good money. And actually the girl that I had such strong feelings for so long, we actually started dating. And which I'm sure you remember. I'm sure that's sticks out from when you first met me. But that was like the biggest, like things were going really, really good, and they still were for, months and months into that. But when I moved out on my own, I just wanted to go to bed early every day. I was reading books. I was getting fitter again. And when I got into the relationship, I made it more about the relationship, and it was like going out to eat all the time. Even though I wanted to stay, I preferred just coming home and eating brown rice and broccoli or whatever. But, you want to be a part of the fun, and you want to entertain your partner and everything. And I think the biggest thing that was a hindrance on our relationship was the sleep, because she was a night owl and I was a early bird. So she would be over till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and I would have to drive her home because she didn't have a car. And then I would go to work and work a double or something, like work. So it was like I was burning my candles so bad with the sleep. But it was so fun, and it was like that was my first girl ever. So it was like worth every second of it. Mm-hmm. But it just led to so many. It was just like, okay, that on top of overspending. I was spending up to like $150 when we were going out to eat, like each week, going out a couple times, and I felt terrible every time I ate it. Just habits. It's like once you introduce anyone into your daily life, it can really mix up things. Whether it be like you have a priority of like when you want to sleep, when you want to eat, how you want to, do your fitness. Once you involve people, or that's why I imagine it'd be really hard to have kids, because having just anyone in your life makes it difficult. It can be, I guess.
Yeah, and so I know you broke up with this girl, right? Is this what this leads to?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
So
shouldn't really laugh, but
it's okay. So, at that point, I was really more into the McDougal and the Neil Bernards and stuff.
okay.
I was more into doing vegetables, fruits, and starch. But like, I wasn't necessarily interested in like stuffing in, I wasn't interested in just following Harley's advice. I wanted to definitely eat enough. I was never someone who wanted to restrict at all. Like, I'm like, if I could eat 10 meals, that'd be better. But definitely listening more to like, okay, I added sugar to my stuff for a short while and I felt awful. So I was more about like, and I really enjoyed the brown rice over the white. I just felt better digestion, my fight or flight response and all that kind of stuff. I felt way more calm doing the whole foods type thing. So when I accepted that in my head and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to try to do any more magic bullets in terms of like, trying to just fix things in some type of extreme way, just follow like the basics. My cousin had his big health scare and he had sepsis.
Jeez.
And so he was in the hospital and he was, he's the strongest person mentally ever met. I never seen him so like a zombie. Like he was just like scared as fuck, crying all the time, all this stuff. And it was crazy to see. He's my older cousin. He's always the one that was calming me down, like, it's gonna be all right, dude, type thing. I didn't even know what to do. And he found, he was looking through McDougal kind of stuff, all the science, and he just couldn't find anything. And then he found John Rose, and he just was like, all right, buy into it, like, do it. And then he kept trying to get me to do a juice feast. And I'm like, no, I don't want to mess up my metabolism, all that stuff. So we did like a 7 John Rose. I didn't really wait. I felt all right, but I still had pizza like the same day, like vegan pizza the same day after breaking the fast. But he just was like he was just messed up. So he kept diving into different things, and he found the master fast, or he found Robert Morse. Mm-hmm. And Robert Morse talking, and I'm like, oh, dude, I don't want to like see this like people peeing in jars and like measuring filtration. I'm like, dude, I don't even want that in my like reality. Like, get that out of here. And he just was so persistent, and because we're so influential on each other, he was just bringing that stuff up over and over and over. And then I was starting to see some like, what happened. I had like a vegan pizza with my ex, and it was a buffalo vegan pizza. And I ate like pretty much like 6 out of the 8 slices. She had 2. And I didn't go to the bathroom the next day. Both our faces were swollen from all the salt. And I was just like, oh man, like I'm not doing good with this. Like, and then his information kept creeping into my head. So then I'm like, all right, maybe there's something to this filtration type thing, whatever. I don't know. Basically, I did some bad things in terms of like not getting sleep and eating bad food. And then I'm like, all right, I'll try this thing. So for about 4 months, I was following a Robert Morse type protocol. And by the time I bought into some of the Robert Morse stuff, he already moved on to the Master Fast system. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's like cooked grape juice, dry. They're big in the dry fasting. So it wasn't even that I was following necessarily Robert Morse's, all of his principles, because Cody was bleeding in a lot of the Master Fast principles into my understanding. Mm-hmm. So for about 4 months, what I did, the first 2 weeks, those coconut date rolls?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm like, all right, Cody, for 2 weeks, what I'm planning on doing is I'll drink as much water and eat as much of those as I want to just kind of like set like a standard. I don't know how to put it. Just to like, I guess, simplify it, kind of like an elimination diet. So I'm like, I'll eat 2,000 plus calories of that, and I'll drink as much water as I want. Then I'll focus maybe a little more on the filtration, because I wanted to make sure my bowels were working good. So I did that, and then I transitioned into, I did a 12-hour dry every day, dry fast. I just stopped eating it or drinking at 8 p.m., and then I would start at 8 p.m. And then I would break with Robert Morse's tea, and then some of his herbs. I would use something called the Fab Four, which is like supportive for the kidneys, the bowels, the lymph, and the glands. And I did have a routine I built upon that, like it evolved over time, but it was pretty much 12-hour dry. I'd wake up 5 a.m. I'd go for a walk. I'd come back. I would do a hot, cold shower, or I'd do a hot shower, then a cold shower. I would break with the tea and the herbs, and then I would meditate, and then I would start my like fruit juices, and then eating fruit. I would like have watermelon juice, and then I would eat fruit, take a nap, pretty much graze on fruit throughout the day. That kept me stable, because I had a lot of like peeing issues, like I chronically pee, and I don't know if that fermentation or adrenal weakness or any of that, but so I had to keep it real gentle, real easy, like apple every 30 minutes or things along those lines. And I was getting better and better and better and stronger and sleeping amazing. My girlfriend's like, wow, you're really nice when you eat a raw vegan diet. And I'm like, no, I just don't feel like I'm dying. Like, I don't feel like crap. I don't feel angry. You just feel good when you feel good. And that was working really, really nicely. And what's crazy is I had in the middle of it, my wisdom tooth was coming in, and there's an opening. And I got pus started to come out, like an infection. And, from what Morris was saying and all these people, they're like, antibiotics are like the worst thing you could ever do. So I was scared. I didn't know what to do. But then that day, in the morning, I started measuring my filtration. Eventually, I started getting it after I used Robert Morris's herbs, because I couldn't get it before that. And then that day I got it. I mean, I had it for probably a few weeks, and it was pretty good, whatever. But then I had this jar, right? It was probably like 15 ounce with complete just white. Like you couldn't see through. It was like milk. So, that's where a lot of the people, like, I don't claim to know, but it feels more than placebo to me, I guess, with some of these things. Like if someone's like, you saw the filtration and then you just thought your mouth was better. It's like literally as soon as it came out, it was like down. All of the pain and swelling was down. So it's like, I don't really know. I don't know what to tell anybody. But that was my experience. And so I was I actually gave a talk at Arnold's Way Cafe when all this happened, just sharing my stuff. Like I'm just feeling, my nervous system feels better, sleep, everything feels better. And I told my girlfriend, I don't want to do Thanksgiving this year. I just want to keep eating good and keep getting better. And she's like, okay, yeah. And then, but her mom also always like makes us a vegan, like Thanksgiving, like homemade stuffing, all that stuff. So I was like, I'll just do it to that one day. And I probably, ate like 8,000 calories that day and just kind of binge ate for 6 weeks. And I went back to doing what I was doing when I was succeeding, and it wasn't working anymore.
Right.
For many reasons, I'm sure, but I was literally like, I'm just going to stick on it until, I'm cleaned up and my lymph's cleaned up. And I just was able to handle less and less types of fruit, and then less and less fruit. And that's how my weight got down. A lot of people do attribute it to me doing the fast, which is in the future. But that's when I got down to about 120 pounds. I was eating grapes and watermelon, and I was trying to detox, but I was literally like peeing like 100 times a day. I don't know. I was fermenting. I was in fight or flight all day. I was trying to use more herbs. It wasn't working. But putting all that food in your system and then going right back to fruit, I think is like, from a feeling standpoint, it was one of the worst things I could have done. I think that looking back on it, I would not have done anything like that. If anything, I would have transitioned to starch, then fruits and, green juices, things like that. But to just hop right onto the detoxing fruits type thing, like watermelons and grapes. It's just, oh man, it's not good.
Did you eventually stick to a raw diet for like long term?
So that was 2018. I was pretty much doing that up until like doing that protocol, sticking to it. Everyone around me is worried. Till about 2018 May. And then I'm like, I just don't know what to do. Like, I feel awful. I'm starving, but I can't handle food. And my ex-girlfriend was like, maybe try to eat some cooked food. So like, she bought me some sushi, like vegan sushi, ate that. Then we went and got some ramen. I was just like, I was so depleted in sodium that I just had the biggest ever salt craving. And obviously I kind of overdid it within a day. I didn't go like thousands of calories or anything, but it was like handling more salt, like intaking more salt and stuff. So I did that, I put on some water weight, and within a day or two, she's like, you're already looking a lot better. And I'm like, yeah, I feel a little better. But then like, I just started feeling really bad again, like having that really bad fight or flight. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with fight or flight, but like, I think it's still one of the worst feelings of like your heart's racing and you're peeing and you can't relax and you can't focus, like brain fog, and it's just awful. And I got to that point where I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go to the hospital, but I didn't know what else to do. I was going there. They're like, despite only eating fruits and stuff, your potassium's low, your sodium's low. So they would fill me with fluids, and then I would feel better for that day, kind of, and then back to crap the next day. But I didn't know what else to do. I kind of handed myself over and was just like, I reached out to two things. I was entertaining the idea of Master Fast because my cousin was still all over that, and then also I heard a little bit about Lou Corona and stuff like that. So I kind of reached out to Paradigm as well. Like, I called. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I've been like on fruit and like, this is what's happening. And I didn't hear nothing back from Paradigm. So I went ahead and I ordered the Master Fast herbs, and I prepared to just like clean my GI tract out so that I could absorb again or whatever. And by the time I ordered the herbs, actually Lou Corona's brother called me and was just like, your kidneys are starving for amino acids because you've been so low calorie, which I can confirm on my blood tests. And he sounded like he had some answers and like, okay, we're gonna get you back up. Just order the enzymes and probiotics, and after those are in, we can I'll walk you through. It's kind of suck for a couple. You're not gonna feel the best necessarily, but after 4 or 5 days, you should start feeling better, and then after a few months, you should, 3 to 6 months, you should make a recovery according to what he was saying. And I was so excited, but at the same time, I already ordered the Master Fast herbs, and I kind of just ignored that. And when the herbs came in, I did a 38-day Master Fast. And that's when like all emotions just came to the forefront. I couldn't handle anything, like emotionally. It was awful. It was awful, and it was great. It felt good to be not numbed out and like holding things in type thing. But at the same time, when you react to everything so emotionally, it makes you look bad, and then it makes you feel like a pussy. And so when I did the fast, within 12 days, my tongue cleared, and I felt amazing. I felt finally like not in fight or flight. And the grape juice was clearly cleaning out lots of things that weren't grape juice. Green looking molds when I wasn't drinking anything green, these white thing, like, I don't know if it's mucoid plaque or it's worms or parasites, but it's clearly, when this stuff's coming out, I was seeing a difference in how I felt. But still, like, emotional roller coaster. I was saying things to my girlfriend, like ex-girlfriend, like, I was saying all the things I felt guilty about. Like, I feel guilty, that I ever, said this or did this, or, I was just constantly like trying to amend things with different people, but it definitely was a bit too much.
Was
And
that the year you went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival the first time?
Yeah. I'm about to go there. But just to say this first, I was at day 35. No, about 2 weeks into Master Fast, and this was all happening with the emotion stuff. She once in a while would smoke cigars with her dad, and I knew she was looking for a job. And there was a cigar place right down from where I worked, and I really liked my job. I worked at a place called Elevate Nutrition. We would talk with people and using plant-based diet to reverse diabetes, heart disease, and stuff. So I was like, obviously I would never want my partner working somewhere that's so social, that's around drinking and tons of guys, and it's a cigar shop, and it's not something I'm into at all. So initially it just gives me like, I would never want her to work there. But because I'm in this fairy tale land of like, trusting in everyone, believing everyone has the best intentions all the time, or at least I want it to be that way. So I asked if they were hiring, got her a job there. And then prior to this, probably like a day or two before, I said like, look, I know I'm sick. I know I'm messed up, all this stuff. If you want to, I kind of gave her an out. I'm like, don't feel bad if you leave me, because I understand it's not up to you to like have to like put up with all this. And then she wrote me like this whole thing, like, oh, I would never, I have every bit of patience and time for you. We're soulmates, and all like that, like a huge message that I really needed to hear, that made me feel really good and like secure about what's going on, because I felt like a terrible boyfriend. I felt like I wasn't providing in terms of like what a partner should, because I didn't have the strength or health or money or anything. So I had a lot of low esteem behind that. So after she said that, I had like all this confidence in her and in us and blah, blah, blah. So I got her that job. And then with the day before I was leaving for Canada Fruit Festival, I was doing a cross-country trip, and it was 35 days into the fast.
Wait, stop. This is triggering a memory in me, because two guys showed up in Canada at Ted Carr's cabin where I was. We were all waiting for the Canada Fruit Fest, and they were talking about how this guy AJ had joined them, and then had like been on some great.
Don't hold back.
Was I on the phone? Did I phone you or something?
I'm sorry?
Did I phone you or something at that point, by any chance?
Phone me?
Yes.
I don't know. I think we chatted a little over Instagram, maybe.
And you went on a drive with them, and then you like jumped out the car or something, or what happened?
Pretty much. So I was at day 35. We were in her car. I took her sister to the train station in Philly. We came back, she came in, and I went to go kiss her, and she kind of like avoided. And then we went in the house, and in my head, I'm like, I feel really bad, because I'm like, I know at this point, this is when, you kind of have like goodbye sex until you're back type thing. But I had no sex drive. I was only 115 pounds, and I felt really guilty about that. And then she pretty much was just like, I feel like this relationship is hurting you more than it's good for you. And, so we basically broke up there, kind of said a lot. It felt really good, both of us being emotionally honest and blah, 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 kind of saying it's the end of an era type thing. But it obviously was heartbreaking for me, because we were together for years, and it was like a buildup of 8 years, actually, that we've known each other. And the fact that I worked right next door, it was going to be terrible to like come back to work. I literally worked it's a plaza, 2 stores down from her. It's going to be terrible. And so that happened. I'm an emotional wreck. That's when I literally was crying 50 times a day, probably for 3 days. Then, those 2 guys, I honestly forget their names. But they're from Pennsylvania. I met them through Arnold's Way Cafe, and they wanted to go. They wanted to drive cross country, and I I still didn't even break the fast then. I was planning on breaking it 40 days, and we were on the road for 2 days. And I'm like, this is just too much for me. Like, one, the breakup, but two, like, part of the master fast protocol, you need to be doing enemas, because if you're not moving enough, out of your bowels, you're going to feel awful during the fast. So trying to like do that and being on the road, and it's like, where the hell are you going to do the enemas, or where are you going to whatever. So I broke the fast while I was with them. It helped a little, but I was like, guys, I just really want to go home. I don't want to be on the road for 5 days and be at the fest and be on the road again for another 5 days. So I was definitely freaking out, crying a lot, whatever. But they were so nice about it. They took me to the nearest airport. I just took a flight home. And actually from there, what happened was I was not going to go to Woodstock Fruit Festival either. I was like, I just stay home. I don't want to like be on the road, or again, saying the same things. And I almost gave my ticket away. And his name was James, actually, one of the guys, James Canali. I was going to give my ticket to him. And then I was like, for some reason I didn't. And then I was like, oh, I'll go, because my sister was going. And I was like, we can drive together. It'd be an experience together. And that's what happened. I decided to. And me and her ended up driving up and went to my first Woodstock 2018. But something interesting, just to bring it back to the fast, I broke the fast on like melon, and then I had mangoes or something. But when I was waiting for my flight, I got on the flight. I had zero fear. I had zero anxiety. And I always was terrified of flying. And I don't know if that was an obstruction that got released or any of that. But since then, I don't have any fear of flying. And it was always a feeling, not like an understanding. Like I could understand it's not that dangerous, but it's like a roller coaster. I'd still have fear of like that drop type thing.
Yeah.
And now I have no fear of flying. So I don't know what happened, but it was interesting.
And what was your experience like at Woodstock?
So Woodstock 2018 was probably, at least at the time, the best week of my life. I think part of it was because I felt so awful about myself and how thin I was, and like health and all that stuff, just everything going on in my life pretty much at that time, the ex leaving me and all that stuff, that it was really, really nice to be around people that weren't making me feel bad about it, because I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was never trying to lose weight or be skinny or anything. And even if I was trying to detox and I was doing it wrong, or I was, you shouldn't eat fruit detox, my intention was always good. I was just trying not to feel terrible. So it felt nice being there and not feeling like an asshole, I guess. But when I got there, my sister was making lots of friends, and it was the first, day or two. I talked to a few people, but I'm like, I don't even fit in here. I was just like, this sucks. And then something happened on like day 3 where I just really started to talk with people, and it really was like really good conversation. Like I've always been drawn to like podcasts and type things, because I care about the details. I care about the long form, like real interaction. So that was given to me, and it was really cool. And I basically, that week, I've always been terrible with names. I could never remember anyone's name. Within that week, I probably remembered 300 or 400 names. No joke. Like I was impressed with myself. Maybe that's an exaggeration. I would say at least like 100 or 200. It felt like I knew everyone there. Like I'd see someone like, oh, I know that's Christina. I know that's, whatever. And it just showed like, it lit up some kind of light in me that I hadn't experienced before. And it felt good. It felt good for people to be more understanding. And, everyone's just so nice. It was really nice sleeping outside, having the fresh air, having the food taken care of for you, not having to like run to the store and prep it all and worry about ripening.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And a lot of people really, like I had cool experiences, like with Mike Arnstein. Like for Mike Arnstein, almost the better half of a decade, Mike Arnstein was like a hero. And to be able to go like in nature and walk with him, see him talk, see his talks, him tell me a story about him almost dying in what was it called, when he was like skiing, and near-death experience type things, and see him cry. That was like humbling, and it for me to be able to talk with him like one-on-one, like both real human beings. It was just a cool thing to happen for sure.
That's awesome. And so, so at that point, did you stick to a raw diet after that, or where did
So
you
I was
kind of?
raw leading up to that, despite it being low calorie or whatever, for about up to that point, like 9 months. And then, I came back. I was raw for another month or so, and then I had some vegan ice cream and felt terrible, so I just went back to raw. And then I actually, I was really buying into the emotion type stuff, and I was like, I just want to face all these emotions so they're out of my head type thing. And I did another 2-week master fast because I was caught in again. From Woodstock, I was caught in fight or flight again because I was eating like not that much before, and then I could eat unlimited mangoes and sapote and salads. So my gut was like, not that I was fat, but it was so bulged because there was so much volume in there. And so I did another 2-week, and I just ended up in the hospital, really bad electrolyte issues. So that was what happened then. I started seeing some new issue that I'd never seen before in anybody. And have you ever heard of something called man on fire disease?
What's it called, sorry?
It's called man on fire disease.
No, I've never heard of that.
I can't pronounce the medical name. It's pretty difficult. But basically, I had such an intolerance to any kind of heat, and it built up pressure in my system. So my veins were popping out of my legs, not in a vascular way, in like a constriction way, like it was strangling my legs, and my veins and my vessels or whatever would do that. And I go to the hospital, and they're like, they would see that it's bulging, but at the same time, I was so dehydrated that if I was laying down, my veins were tiny because I was that dehydrated. And it was awful because it puts constriction on pretty much all of your vessels. And I don't know. I don't know if it's that. I mean, they had speculation that it was that, but it wasn't like officially diagnosed. But I try to get people to imagine, like, if you had a rope and you tied it around like in a cartoon and you squeezed, and how like the body would, like the rope would squeeze in, and then the like pieces of the body would squeeze out because of the constriction. Can you like imagine that? That's how it feels like when your veins are squeezing you to death. But then I got super like focused. I'm like, you're going to do this and you're just going to follow it and see the results. So what I did, again, I got into a routine, 12-hour drive, because I was peeing all the time. Like I'm peeing all the time and I'm dehydrated. So clearly it's not just if you're peeing clear type crap. I was doing the tea, herbs, green juice, and then I would do 2 large fruit meals, go to bed early. I did that for like 3 months, and things were just, pretty really good again. And that's kind of me leading up to the Woodstock the next year. I was able to put on some weight finally. I think I went up to like, by Woodstock, like 140, and my normal-ish was like 150 to 160. So I was clearly still very skinny, but I was more, so I didn't feel as bad. But that's leading up.
Yeah, where are you at now? Like, is this just coming up to now, or?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm 145 right now. Last month I was 152, so I definitely dropped a bit. What's interesting was, are you familiar with the brand Purium?
Yes.
So I was eating the exact same amount of calories, but I tried some of their stuff in addition. So I was doing 2,500 calories of fruit and greens, and my weight was consistently like 140. And then I did their aminos, They're like, apparently their claim is it's not processed by the kidneys and the liver and stuff. And when I did it, my weight went up to about 155. That was last month. And then I ran out, and it seemed my weight kind of dipped a bit. I definitely should have been eating a bit more, but I noticed like an increase, and I was like, oh, it felt really good to see that, because that was the most I've weighed since.
What's your diet like now?
There's definitely times where I was doing a lot more of like the green juices type stuff, but I would say I keep away from the teas and stuff like that now, the herbal teas. I have like a box of dates, so it could have been like, 20 dates in a date smoothie. I don't really feel that good with Gatorade myself. Mostly bananas, honestly. Like any other food is more like a treat. Like I got a melon. It's pretty decent. I've been snacking on it since we were talking. But 99% of the time I buy a melon, it's either crap or it's rotten, or I have to go and get my money back. Right? It's too much money to just be going to the store all the time. I could buy like 7 and be like, oh, 3 of them were edible. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But, I got a lot of like frozen fruit, big banana ice cream guy. I actually have done banana ice cream for 60 days once.
Nice.
Pretty much 99% of the time it's bananas based with, lettuces and green juices. I'm bigger on the minerals and the sodium type stuff now, coming from such a depleted background, for sure. Berries, I love berries. Grapes, because I'll know if they're good before I get them. I'll try one. But consistency-wise, nothing works better than bananas.
Yeah.
For me.
Do you stay raw? Do you eat cooked food? What do you do?
I've had some like cooked veggies in my salads, like maybe 3 times this year. But I've been like 98% raw or something.
Sure. So
that was just because I was hungry.
Do you feel like
didn't have much fruit?
Have you found sort of a consistent diet now?
Well, with the whole Corona thing, I lost my job, so it definitely took in terms of what I got to enjoy, because I was enjoying like lemon ginger blast and like lots of things with the bananas. It wasn't just like, it wasn't so simple. And I really love the green drinks. I enjoy those a lot. And since then, I haven't really been able to do those. So it's kind of like, I don't have money coming in, so I can't afford a lot of the things. So it's simple diet by default. So I have found consistency in that way, but it's not necessarily the most enjoyable thing.
Awesome. So
like it's nice to have like a good salad or whatever.
So if people want to follow you online or whatever, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, just AJ Dybka, D-Y-B as in boy, K-A.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, AJ, to tell us a bit more about your story. And thanks everyone for listening to and watching the Love Fruit podcast. We'll see you in another episode. And anything you want to finish off with, AJ?
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to say that if you guys are going to be at the 2020 Woodstock, it's going to be the 10-year anniversary. Definitely excited to see Mike will be back, see a lot of the people. I think they're going to do it up real nice. I don't know if I'm going to go the entire week. I might come for 2 or 3 days, but I don't want to break that connection, because I feel like if I don't go this year, I might just stop going. And I wanted to say, like, just some of my goals. Like, I do have, like, I want to be up to like 165. My weight, I want to be more, definitely put on some weight. I'm done being too skinny for sure. And I would like, I have so much more. I would love to do, even if it's separate from this type of podcast type of thing, I would love to dive in a lot of things with you, Ronnie, on terms of like information, whether it be like different doctors' opinions or like theories or science behind all different issues. You know, I see a lot of stuff in the carnivore diet. They're calling out a lot of things. There's a lot of talk in the vegan deterioration. There's a lot of people. I think Raw Bliss turned more people off fruitarianism than anyone in history. And I think a lot of that, I would love to talk all that stuff with somebody. So if you're ever interested, let's do it.
We'll do another one where we just talk about. That would be interesting. Yeah, I'd like to. We can schedule that and do that another time.
I actually messaged Drew Morg and I asked him if I could be on his podcast.
Yeah, well, all of these guys to me are total fantasists, total delusional. I don't know. It's just silly, man. None of them are doing what they've said they're doing, and it's similar to a lot of people. They just lie about what they're eating, and so anyway.
Cool.
So anyway, AJ, thanks for joining me. And,
yeah, thanks for having me.
Wow, you've had a lot of struggles. I didn't realize so much, but I'm glad you're getting the weight back and everything.
Yeah.
We'll see you again. Thanks everyone for listening.
Hopefully I'm pretty big by the time you see me.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for watching and we'll see you. Bye.